This is That One Audition with Alyshia Ochse.
Miss Judy Reyes. I'm so excited really to have you here. It's so thrilling to talk to people that have made a career out of this. It's one thing, especially since this is called That One Audition. I think a lot of actors, they get started. You're just so excited to get the job.
Right.
And then you get the job. And then you work for a decade. And then you get the series. And then you might not work for a minute. And then you're just the next decade, you work again and you work again. You've been working. What a footprint you've left in this industry. And I'm so excited just to get in there a little bit with you.
I'm excited too. I'm always stunned at how long I've been doing this and how
your
much
body of work. I mean, we were talking about this for a second off mic. Do you forget are you at that place now where you've forgotten some of the projects, television shows that you've done?
Totally. I had an interview with Mario Lopez just earlier today. He goes, so you did Scorsese's Bringing Out the Dead. And I was like, I do not remember that at all. I remember that I did Bringing Out the Dead and it was going, who did you play? I'm like, no clue. It was like one day. Yep. I don't, no recollection. I mean, who forgets that?
I mean, when you have more relevant roles that were more impactful to you, I think that's, No,
it's not really that. It's not really that. It's just like, you forget shit.
You just forget shit. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
So long ago. And I remember being just so like on cloud 9 after that. And then I didn't work for like 3 years.
And that's the journey, right? The journeyman's path. And I think that's what I want to kind of get into. I have so many questions at the beginning, but even just what you just said, such a high, and then you don't work for 3 years. As somebody who has made their living now from acting as an actor for the last, let's say 3 decades.
Right.
How do you weather those in between storms? So that I don't want to call it storm, valley, Man,
but it feels like a storm. It feels like a war. It feels like the end of the world. It feels like like a famine. What am I going to do? What's happening? I can't get arrested. And I have to, I'm not sure if it was before or after or Bringing Out the Dead, but once I found, I started off, the theater circuit, which is the best training ground, I think, the most fun, the greatest way to learn, establish community, learn how to work your ass off for almost no money, the thing that makes your restaurant job worth it.
Right. And you started with Labyrinth, and I did not know the original incubus, like for Labyrinth was
the Latino actors base. You had no idea, huh?
I did not.
Yes. I mean, Phil came on board when just as it became Labyrinth, because it started to become a more multicultural collective, but its birth, and it lasted so long, and it was such a safe space. Most of the people, like the brilliant John Ortiz, who you can see in American Fiction, was absolutely perfect in that film. He started the company with our friend Gary Perez. Stephen Adley Girgis was even part of the lab. We understood that in order to make our own productions, there has to be, you have to have not only Latino people, right? And it was an incredible collective of actors that they put together because it was via auditions. We all had to audition to be a part of it. And a lot of the people who participated, college grads who studied everything from West Side Story to Shakespeare. And yet you can only get hired for perp number 3 on Law and Order, or the housekeeper, or the gangbanger. So you don't have an opportunity to really become or create anything in terms of getting a job while you're so busy, just like getting in there with your skills and your discovery, your awesome days and your shitty days, and kind of understanding. I didn't graduate college. I dropped out.
Going to be my question is if this train took off already in the direction of acting, or how you kind of steered into it.
Well, I mean, I think I'm one of 4 girls. I have an older, a twin, and a younger. And my twin sister always wanted to be an actor from when she was a kid. She is an actor currently. She's also an MSW. The stability was more urgent for her later on, so she put it away for her side, and now she does work, and she lives in Atlanta and she works all the time. But at that time, she'd always known that world is what she's wanted to be. And I think I didn't want to step on her shit, So I secretly wanted. And there was one time, I was telling the story earlier, where she looked through the daily news. Are you in New York?
I'm in LA.
Okay. She looked through the daily news, which was our daily paper. And back then they had ads. They had an ad say, your child can be in the next Burger King commercial. You can be a star. Just come here, meet us today for free or whatever, right? So she begs my mom to take her. And I'm like, I'll come, right? And we go there, and I'm just sitting in the back, listening to what's happening. Tons and tons of parents with their kid. And this one old guy up there and talking to them. And he's telling everybody the same thing. And he's saying, yeah, your kid's got the perfect face. They can be in a Burger King commercial. They're so pretty with this. We can even do Univision. You can do this, you can do that. And the second my mom goes to him, she realized, so you just got to pay that. And it's like, oh, wow. It's like, yeah, just $150. And it was just, what? She looks at him. She looks at my sister. And she, no, thank you. No, thank you. She goes off on my sister. Why would you waste my time? I work all week and but I'm never going to do this again. I think she was hurt for her and hurt about it, of course, looking back. And it scared the shit out of me because we were all terrified of my mom. So she left it alone after that. And I never dared. But, my mom also was a great singer. She'd sing in church. I'd sing in the choir with her, and we get our talent on, our performance on, either at the house parties, or at church. And so we go into college. Yes.
No, keep going. I was getting ready to.
My sister goes to Lehman College in the Bronx. I go to Hunter College in Manhattan, both city colleges, because it had a theater program. But I didn't pick a major. I picked liberal arts. I was liberal arts.
Still kept it vague so nobody can come down on this. Yes.
I was in secret. I was like in the closet with the acting. Mm-hmm. And then my mom had a great friend, Carmela, part of the church, part of the choir, but she was passionate about acting and theater. And the Puerto Rican Traveling Theater at that time offered classes in English and Spanish. She would take the Spanish classes. She decided she's going to put a talent show on at the church. And do your daughters want to do a dance with my daughter? I'm like, yeah. I was 18 already. I was at Hunter. So me, my twin sister, and my kid sister do this dance number with her kids. It was like, what was the song? Jody Watley, Don't You Want Me? I still remember the choreography.
Do you still remember things? Yes, when they're
because there's moments, right? There's a moment when you say the moment that everybody wants to know, and some people don't know. Some people know when they realize while they're doing a shit. I love this, but I knew then. Right? Because we do this dance. My twin sister and I do a scene with another dramatic former actress from Dominican Republic. Her name was Ada or Ava. I don't remember. But we did a scene from the house of Bernardo Alba, brought the house down, the three of us. And then I sang, what did I sing?
I'm so glad.
Papa Don't Preach. I sang Papa Don't Preach.
Well, because I was looking at Scrubs and I was like, she's got a lot of credited performed by. And I was like, she has to have music. So then at this point, are you like, screw college?
What I realized, we did the whole show all day. I was involved. I was like organizing, serving food from the buffet. I was acting background, I'll do the whole thing. And I was in heaven, absolute heaven. And then when I got home, my mom's watching her variety show. And I tell her, and I go in there with my epiphany. My light bulb. I was like, Mom, I know what I want to be. I want to be an actress. And she's like, no. You crazy? Girls like you are an actress. Says, no. Don't waste your education. You're going to be a social worker or you're going to be a teacher, something like that. Get a good government job. No, none of that. You crazy? Actress. And I just stood there paralyzed. And I was like, well, I'm going to do it. And I walked out. And I never looked back.
I love this. You and I are very similar in that where you tell me no, I'm going to do it even more.
But I'm not like that. Like out of the four of us, I'm the good one. So I was always obedient. I always behaved. I was just always afraid. I don't want to get yelled at and all that stuff. So you give me my TV, give me my little books. I'm good. Right. But the second I turned 18, I was like, no, I'm out. No, I'm doing this. No, I'm going to do that. Because that was what my parents said. No, when you turn 18, you can do whatever you want. So when I turned 18, I took it literally and they didn't know what the fuck to do with me.
And they couldn't do anything at that
Couldn't do
point.
anything.
So
No.
did you decide, okay, I'm gonna go to college and do the liberal arts for a little bit? And then what was the crossover to, I mean, I go back and forth. My college
Well, that's
didn't serve
okay.
me.
In college,
Yeah.
I knew that the next day I went and started looking for acting classes and my theater. My first teacher was Mimi Turk, a
Oh, wow.
Stanislavski, a member of the Octa studio. She was fabulous, sweet woman, really like, and I was like, I was eating it all up. Like when you go to a TED Talk and you're like, I love this shit.
Yes. Yes. Well, you're learning then. You're so
Mhm.
invested in advancing. And that's a different skill set, even the actor's studio, even the way that they're teaching, even the place where you're really developing it's in the theater, which beautiful. Did you start working right away on stage?
Well, and then I started like going through the backstages,
Mhm.
and HB Studio and do auditions and get little workshops and workplaces, readings and things like that. And I auditioned for anything that was available to me, but I also took a whole bunch of classes. And then I decided I'm going to take time off. I got a job in a restaurant, which
Mhm.
is what actors do. That's what
Yes.
I never, by the way, I barely ever left the Bronx until I turned 18. So it was like an explosion of a world. It was like for me, it was going to college. So,
That,
just that
yeah.
was the goal of mine. So I went and got a job through school in a restaurant. Um, and I worked there for 4 years, and that's where I met my manager.
That's what I was wondering. It was if it was the theater or a certain audition that brought in your team, right? Starting to get you some
Yeah,
opportunities.
no, it was nothing like that.
It was literally
No,
because
I
you
was
never
doing
know
like
with those day
almost
jobs.
zero money work, no equity, no nothing and then I became part of the labyrinth, the Latino actor space through the backstage, all these actors coming in and auditioning and shit like that. And I was just like, yes, we'd get together every Wednesday, improv, scene, perform, whatever the hell you want. And then ultimately putting on shows, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that's the thing that kept me alive. And then and I ended up being in that restaurant for 3.5, 4 years. And it was in that last year that we had these regular customers that sat in a four top. That's a table of four for you non-restaurant workers.
Yeah.
But there was two of them, but they always sat in that four top, even if it was two of them or the four of them. But the husband, Ray Fox, wherever you are, God bless you, would always sit there, get there first, and wait for his wife. And she'd come out of work, and she'd always come with bags, carrying stuff, and she'd always get there late. And they were regulars. That's all I knew. And one day, Ray and I just started to strike up a conversation, and he's talking to me, and he goes, "Oh, your hair is so beautiful. And where were you born? And are you bilingual? And what makes you work here? What school do you go to? So what do you want to do?" I was like everybody in a restaurant, I want to be an actress. I goes, "Really? Okay, yeah." It's like, "Are you doing anything?" And then I started telling him about theater, lab, and stuff. He goes, "My wife is a manager, right?" And I'm like, "No, I had no idea." I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm going to
All
tell her."
those bags of headshots and papers and scripts and all the things, I'm sure.
Yeah, and there was Fox Albert Management. I don't know that they're not around anymore, but Jean Fox. So her biggest client besides me was Mira Sorvino, the Oscar-winning actor.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So
Yeah.
she took you on just because the husband was like, hey, check
Well, yeah,
you
she
out to
called.
audition?
I go to my boss, and she's like, "That's huge."
Mhm.
That's, I was like, "Really? Oh, no, I didn't know." I said, "No, you have to go. You have to go." I wasn't sure if I was getting the creepy vibe from him, if it was a little flirty.
Right. Totally. Yeah.
And
Yes.
she goes, "No, no, that's for real." And then she calls me over, and she gives me a card. Goes, "Come to my office. Call Denise. That's my associate." That was the other manager. And I went and met Denise. She seemed irritated as hell. She was like,
Mhm.
it seemed like, Jean would pass on people to her for whatever reason. And she's like, "We'll do a 3-month verbal contract. Okay." I was like, "Great. Yeah, thanks. Great." And she sends me on a bunch of things. And I was like 3. I booked the third, and then I booked the lead in an indie film.
There you go. Within that first 3 months.
Yes. And then she calls me once I booked a show and a play, but they were conflicting. So I picked the movie. And then
Mhm.
she calls me and she says, "Hey, so we're going to have to sign you." And then I said, and I with them for the longest time.
See, you just never know. But also like the work, you were doing things, you weren't just waitressing, and then the right person, right time, at least to get the foundation going, right? Because that's the
Sure.
other thing too. I think when you start off as an actor, people are like, I need an agent, I need a manager immediately. No, you need to work, figure out kind of who you are. And then once you start working, the agent and manager.
Representation is so unpredictable. Okay. I think what saved me, she mostly managed kids.
Mm,
She was really in there. When you're someone who's dealing with or presenting or adults, you just really don't really know how to protect yourself. You're assuming that they're going to protect you, and it's simply not like that, you know. And you can get really fucked by representation.
you really can, listening to certain advice or kind of not having a game plan of what you want to do
Right.
next. It gives them a place to at least aim where they're directing their energy versus just being like, will somebody represent me? Anybody? That
Right.
energy changes.
Right. Or simply taking advantage of you, or there's something you don't want to do,
Mhm.
or there's a place you don't want to go, and kind of being manipulated oftentimes.
Completely, because
you.
you need to understand how the business works. Sometimes they're trying to get you on a certain job because they've got somebody else on the job. Sometimes
Yeah.
you get a last minute audition because their star booker is occupied on something else. It's constantly a strategy. Or they're taking you on because they need 10 more people to throw spaghetti at the wall. And like, so then I'm so curious. Were you with this manager when you did you stay with them the duration till you get scrubs?
They were with me
Yes.
doing scrubs. And I believe, it was Denise who was also just took amazing care of me, who was the associate. And somewhere during scrubs, we moved on from there. You know what I mean? I think it was because she was probably semi-retired or Denise left. So I had to find myself a different representative.
And then at that point too, that's a different conversation because now
It is
you're
a different conversation.
You're a series regular, and then there's a different. I'm sure how the meetings were conducted was quite different as well. Your product that they're selling. So a management or a team at the beginning, if they can sell this product or at least take a risk on possibly selling this product, then you're going to work. Once you're a product that's been sold, you're on a different shelf.
Right. Right. And it is a different thing because even the minus of having such great and attentive like everything started so I was with a great agent. She left the agency. I think she left the business. So then I was passed down to somebody else at that agency, and I never heard from her. And then she left. And I met with the manager that I had at that time. I had to leave the agency. I'd have to go somewhere more intimate so that people don't forget me. Because, your big job, big agency. But, as a woman of color, you get forgotten, because that's exactly what happened. And it happened like that.
After Scrubs, it did?
After Scrubs, I had to go it was from Paradigm. And then I went to TalentWorks, which was good for me. Really good for me. And I'm still with that agent from TalentWorks. And she's
I was with her for a while too. And now she's at Buckwald. Yes. I love her. I love her very much. Yes. And that's the thing too, is understanding the attention that you want, how you want to be managed, and what opportunities you want to be accessible to you. I think it's always great to look at the agency and be like, oh, okay. Gersh is known for putting everybody on television. So is Paradigm. So they're going to come. So just understanding the business better can help you make good decisions about where you're going to go and who you want on your team to produce more opportunity.
That's the hardest part though, right? You want to I just want to act. But the fact is it does not serve you, and all the shit that you lose and you learn on the way to figuring that out. And sometimes it ruins your career, and sometimes it just helps your career. I think I just said that, I had to move to TalentWorks, and then I had a shitty manager, and that's me having almost like a nanny for a manager, and then having someone who's like, trying to make that money.
Right.
Make that money and just trusting them because I don't know anything about the business. I don't trust myself that way. I just, you know what I'm saying? And that takes growth, and learning and a lot of loss until you figure that shit out.
Well, I think that that's really what it comes down to, is especially having this podcast, is trying to let people know the losses that I've had in my 20 years career, and then talking to other people so that you can pull back the curtain on certain things So hopefully somebody coming up doesn't do the same or has that strategic sense, because nobody teaches you the business. Nobody sits down and says, hey, by the way, you're going to get this agent or manager for probably 2 years. They don't know a lot of people, so you're not going to get a lot of opportunity. They're still trying to build their career too. This person over here is going to do X, Y, and Z, or just like, don't do this, try this, try this,
Or some people who are so good at the business, not necessarily talented in the way that we would like to be perceived as actors, but they are good at getting themselves out there and staying remembered and making them. They're like an excellent craft person.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying in that regard.
Absolutely. I think it's also the difference between auditioning and getting on set and knowing how to do the job. You coming up from in theater, story is king, developing characters that are so within yourself and outside of yourself, really getting to explore different worlds. And then you step into television. And a lot of people, some other people, work in a realm in which they're well known or they're very highly publicized and they're going from job to job to job, but they might not have that basis of understanding. So I'm so curious how you took this amazing skill set that you have being on stage, developing in that craft, and then merging that into television. So
no idea.
I was wondering if it was planned at all. And if not, if we could walk through, there's 3 specific shows. I think when you start as the pilot's the hardest, right? You have no idea. You have no basis for anything other than the script, tonally what they're going for. So I was so curious when you got Scrubs, when you got the audition for Scrubs, how...
Okay, here's a couple of good stories where that's good. That's a great question. I'd done around 6 pilots before Scrubs hit. So I'd been on a bunch of pilots. So I think on my way to continue to booking those jobs, I just got more informed, more comfortable, doing what, in terms of like changing a performance from theatrical to cinematic, like the same thing, but smaller. I have a lot of really great casting directors to thank for that. They already started liking me. So I was like, Judy, how you doing? So I was like, okay, this is great. I think this is great for you. And I do something, like, so just smaller. You're a great theater actress, but make it smaller. You can't get that. I was like, okay, I'll try it. And that I appreciate that, because don't forget the value of a casting director to an actor.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying? When they help you, they see it. And sometimes they get caught up on you and they fight for you, Yes. And next time you say, I loved you for that. I'm really sorry they didn't pick you. I'm sorry to tell you, but I loved you for that. Thank you. That fucking helps you. That's stuff, all that matters, because you love what you're doing. So I think that education, that's what I count on. And that information along, by the time Scrubs came, I was taking I'd gone through that crisis where I worked, didn't do anything. And I moved back home. I went back to the restaurant, started making jewelry, selling shoes. But I was terrified by the end, like these people are representing me.
Yeah. Were you still auditioning during that?
Auditioning, all auditioning. That was before Scrubs. And I had done a Law and Order. I couldn't book a thing. So I was like really scared. And I couldn't sleep all night, like really asking myself the question, what am I going to do with myself? What am I going to do in my life? What do I want to do? Like, I don't know what to do. And the sun was coming up. I remember this. That was the same thing that happened with when I knew that I wanted to be an actor. And I remember this. It's like, I don't know where to go. It goes, as long as you earn a living, what difference does it make? You can do a play here. You can do a play there. As long as you get to act for a living, you're going to be okay. And like, I was like, yeah, I don't have to be like a TV star or anything, because I already, you already get the taste of that stuff.
Yes.
And it seems like, well, you got to get into that club. You got to get into that club. And I was like, I got to act. I just want to act, and it feels almost foreign to say, but it's important to keep doing it, because you don't book a job that other people tell you you're good enough to get paid for. It does not mean that you don't deserve to act and to perform and to realize yourself. Just keep it in your life, because if you don't get it because somebody's saying you're not good enough for that part, then you're going to, my life is over. That's the healing thing for me was to always stay in it, always stay doing it, always stay in it. And when I understood that, I chilled out. And then 6 months later, I got another job. I can't remember what it was.
So it's really just deciding to kind of take the pressure off of it.
I mean, I think so. I mean, it almost feels guilty that you're not working, but you still love it. You still want to do it, but you're not working. So why do you love it if you're not working? You know, and it's almost
look
like
at auditions as a part of the job. Or for you, the work was getting on set or on stage.
No, the audition is definitely part of the job. I got two great pieces of advice, right?
Yes.
You go in there and you fucking nail it in a way that makes you feel good, because getting hired is not in your hands. But you go in there, you fucking nail that. It's like, well, I nailed that. They hired somebody else. Really? Oh, well, that's that. Or you say, good for her. That shit was, shit. Okay, I see what they're looking for. You know, you come to terms with, you have to feel good. You come out of an audition or you get pissed off that somebody else got it. You're not really happy with what you did. Mm-hmm. Right? You're not. And that's something a casting director told me. And another person told me, an acting teacher told me, whenever you go into a room, no matter how many people there are, and this is going to lead to my scrub story, you take a moment, you look at everybody, because that's your time. That's your time. You take it in, or whatever it makes you feel, you take your breath, and then you start.
I love that.
And I think I was on my test
for
with Scrubs. They flew me out here to LA. And back then, they'd be like in the little office, there'd be like 30 people waiting to see you try to get this job.
For the studio test, yes.
And it's built to give you that pressure. It's built to scare the living shit out of you.
But it's also kind of built like a stage. Back when we used to go in the room and test, it felt to me like we're on stage, right? And they had that one light. You can barely see the suits.
Yes.
On you.
And about it is like, how can you stay focused? Can you function under that pressure? You know? But I was insanely prepared. And
you said that was probably your third audition at that point. So in New York, you probably went in the room.
I went casting director. I had the callback. I had sent the screen test, and then they flew me out I sent another video, like a third thing, and then I had the test. So it was maybe 4 when they decide to fly you. And the other thing was, I got there and there was like a whole bunch of women there. I'm thinking this is the test. It's going to be like 3, 4 of us. There was like 6, 8 women. And I was like, huh. And I knew the thing backwards. So I'm looking around, and it's taken a long time. And they were all there before me. I get there. They call my name. Like there was one woman before me. It's like, oh, okay. And I go in there, and there's like all these people there. I was like, hi, we loved your tape. You were great. Bill was there. And the casting director was there. So he was deprecating and funny. And he's like, so whenever you're ready. And I was like,
You looked at everybody.
I looked at everybody. I looked at him. I said, no pressure. Everybody laughed their ass off. And then I nailed it. I nailed it so hard. I was skipping. I was practically skipping to the elevator. I was like, I'm going to take my car. I'm going to go back to New York. And I go to the bathroom. I'm like, feel good. I don't even think about it anymore. I go to the elevator. I'm waiting for my elevator. And one of the associates runs to me. I guess one of the producers. She was like, Judy, hold on a second. She comes, I just want to tell you, you got it. And I was like, okay, before you left. I said, we'll call you. Great, amazing. I was like, oh, okay. and
then 9 seasons, 17, how many nominations? 17 Emmy nominations. Okay, so I'm going to ask a couple of craft things, and then I want to get into, this is so great. You know, you come from a theater world. You're coming from developing characters, being with characters for a long time. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of actors, especially nowadays, it's like, what's the thing that you want to get? Get the series regular, get the safety, the security, get the money, get a name for yourself. But people don't talk about often finally getting that mountaintop. And then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years in, you're the same character maybe starting to feel a little dry or not. I'm curious how you kept the freshness for yourself for 9 years and the pressure of being such an outstanding show, groundbreaking in so many ways. So how do you keep your creative spark going for your specific character and your storyline for that long? And then I'll get to the next one.
Great question. Great question. I think, Bill and the entire Scrubs world worked really hard to keep things silly and fresh and fun. I had nothing to compare it to, right? So I didn't have an actual serious job. So I thought like the fact that we were in our own hospital building and not on a stage saved our asses, because Bill, who's just a rebel and irreverent, and would always piss off the suits, which is why I think, and that we had the advantage of being in a separate building and they weren't near us all the time. So that I credit to the show and the nature of the show, a weekly figuring out how possibly weird and stupid we can get with JD's imagination, right? So for me, because, and we had the writers in the room too, right? Again, being brand new, being just happy to be there, right? And I was homesick for New York. So back then you'd shoot 3 and you'd take a week off. The week off is for the writers to catch up, right? So shoot 3, have the week off, I'd fly home. But the youngsters and the rest of the cast would always pop into the writer's room to see what's up, to get in their heads. And then, what I'm saying? You
probably didn't even know you could do that. Yeah.
I didn't know I could do that. I didn't have the nerve and I didn't really care, to be honest with you, until I cared. So it'd be like Carla would be the serious one, the one with the attitude, with the gravitas. But I was like, and it would take everything in me to go to Bill, who's the sweetest man in the world. And it's like, and I said, please don't cry, please don't cry, please don't cry. And I'd fucking cry. Because I was like, I want to be in a fantasy. I need a little more. I'd like my character to do this or that, can we? And I got real tough at a couple of points, or real, I guess, not as doubtful of myself. One time was when, Bill had wrote the character as, there was something in the script that said she was Mexican. So I was like, okay, so is she Mexican? Well, because I'm Dominican. I was like, oh God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's like, no, don't apologize. If she's Mexican, I got to do a Mexican accent.
Yes.
I can't be speaking Spanish because I get pissed off when someone who's supposed to be from where I am or a New Yorker and sounds like they're like totally from LA, you know what I mean? Yeah. Or do something shitty in Spanish. That matters to me. So he'd apologize and fix it immediately, but then he'd do it again. You know what I mean? And that spoke to the work that I have to do to stay present, right? As opposed to
stay protective of your character and your story.
Yes. And your story, who I'm trying to be, you know what I mean, for this or how it matters to me. And he'd always be wide open with opportunities, but that's where I got shy, and that's where I got self-conscious, and then the other time had my character put her mother in a home. I was like, oh no, we don't do that.
Yeah.
We don't do that. It's like, how many brown people do you see in a home? How many Latin people? So there'd be 20 people in a studio before there's going to be. We're not doing that.
And did they listen for that?
Yeah. I mean, it was adjusted in a way that I don't want to argue it, like an assisted living facility, which is like a different name for a home, it turns out, but still.
But just the learning lesson of one, this character better than anybody else, better than the writer, the showrunner. At a certain point, the ownership that you have as a series regular, once you're given that responsibility, it is a responsibility. To protect, honor, share this story.
Absolutely.
For the guest directors that are coming in constantly to make sure they understand what is being told. And that's a hard place to cross over, I think, as an actor, when you're like, please give me a job.
And you're coming off a lot as your character, but inside you're terrified, but the beauty and the magic of working with Bill on Scrubs and that experience is that as an artist, he used it. So he even, for the Scrubs musical, he wrote a song for me and Donald called for the last time Turk, I'm Dominican, because I had to keep telling him that I'm not Mexican, so he made a whole joke out of it and wrote a scene. It was fucking brilliant, to be honest with you.
And very educational for other people that might not get it. Yes.
I think it's important to If not, stay in people within within the process, which is another difficult thing when you're doing TV as opposed to film, as opposed to stage, right? You're on stage and you're in the process all the time because you're part of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then the most you're all together is in the table read, which we did pretty regularly. And then, you're in your little pieces. So you tend to only pay attention to what you have to do after a bunch of years, as opposed to like what the whole show is. Then you're reading only your scenes. Now you're learning your shit on camera before learning it before you get there. It's just conducive for all that stuff. That's where the work comes in, right? To stay part of it. And when you do what they call jumping the shark, it's time to go, whether it's even for you or for the entire show.
I'm so grateful that you're being honest about this. Thank you. Because I think it's such a learning. We all have, I say, going up the stairs for acting, right? And then sometimes you jump landings.
Right.
And when you've been guest starring or co-starring, and then they're like, here's your own show, basically for 9 years. An ensemble piece too, which that's a whole other thing to negotiate.
A whole other bag of fish.
For your ego, for also just business and understanding who gets to go to the upfronts, who gets to be on the cover of this magazine, who gets to talk about the show here, where are they going to pay attention to this season? Are they going to give enough of a storyline to X, Y, and Z? It's a whole different ball game of learning how to communicate and collaborate.
Right. Yeah. And you ultimately you make your choices of what you're going to be a part of. Right. You know what I mean? Like you just said, the award shows, the upfronts, the interviews and stuff like that, that can also, to me, I'll say, for me, it was really distracting and super stressful. Now I have to worry about who I'm talking to, what I'm going to say, what I'm going to wear, what party to go to, what pictures to take. Did I look good in this one? And the thousands that I'm paying to this publicist, is it worth it? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm on a cover of a magazine that you literally only find in a bathroom. It's like, what am I doing this for? And
what did you learn? Because I think I just did a whole podcast interview or episode around this. When to get a manager, when to get an agent, when to get a publicist, when to get a lawyer, when to get incorporated, because nobody tells you these things, especially being on something like Scrubs. Did they have a built-in publicist for you?
No. Well, they have a publicist for the show, but not for you. So then apparently you had to get an individual publicist to promote yourself as an individual. I didn't know how to make that work. I just did it. Because that's what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And because I could.
What season did you finally decide, or was it encouraged to you to get a publicist, and what did you see was the benefits?
I guess around season 2, I didn't really know what the benefits are. I literally didn't. Like, you get the interviews, you get on the talk shows, you get, it's like, oh, okay. You do photo shoots and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. And so I got it, and again, I didn't know how to make use of it. So I just assumed that it's me. I'm not famous enough. So that's why I'm not getting this. It's me. I'm not famous enough. So, and of course, it's like an independent agency as opposed to a big agency. Like sometimes you're just attached to whatever, PMK, is it? I was like, oh, they're a client. Let's see who it is, But a smaller agency has to work a lot harder, And ultimately, by the end of Scrubs, I was on just whenever I need you kind of thing. And then I just moved on. I had a kid. Mm-hmm. I didn't care because I was working.
Well, that's the thing, the work and then the business side of it, they kind of start to conflict. And once you have that responsibility of anchoring a show, mm-hmm. then all these other business things that have nothing to do with the craft, that have absolutely nothing to do with your audition skills or your acting skills, now are being placed upon you or feeling like they are. So it's good just to kind of hear when people decided to take that on and how that worked.
It is available to you when you want it. As you pay, and then you have to be really complicit, for lack of a better term, in how that gets used and what you use it for. I have a publicist again, because now that's the moment. There's like 4 things going on.
Yes, you've got a lot going on right now, and that's a good time to have somebody come on, and also to have them bring awareness to those things, but also, like you said, you shine a light on a certain topic as well, right? If there's something like right now, you have a lot of heat because you have a lot of things coming out. We got so many things going in different directions. You can also take that light and shine it on something else. You can use it to remind people that you're an actor, because all of these projects are so different, right? It's not like, oh, I'm just this character, I'm just this lane.
Right.
You've made a beautiful career. Your work speaks for itself in that, but that's sometimes where I think a publicist can help.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly. And it can create, like, I can manifest more of the stuff that you want to do. I would, as a Latina woman, as women of color, you have to use, I am a fan of using this heat to be able to manifest work.
Yes.
Right. For myself, for others, to create stuff or support stuff that I believe in, because I can.
Because you can.
I don't know what the result's going to be, but if I'm going to, that's what I want it for.
Yes. Yeah. I'm so grateful for you even sharing that part of the business of it. Okay. Can I swing from Scrubs ends? Do you want to get back on a television set? You said you had a baby during this time. Did you take a conscious effort to be like, I'm waiting to do another 7-9 year run of something?
Yes, I did. And then like 5 months after Ray was born, we get this call for Devious Maids. And I was like, oh.
That was going to be, this is my question. If you would walk me through this. Yes. I
was like, maids? Really? Maids. Yeah, it's like Desperate Housewives, but it's a comedy. I was like, okay. And it's irresistible, right? It's irresistible. Ana Ortiz, Rosalind Sanchez, Dania Ramirez, and it's ABC.
Yes.
Like, what? Okay.
Yes, and then everything's aligned. And were you and Anna in Labyrinth at the same time?
Yes.
I mean,
okay. Another thing. And she and I had done a Lifetime movie together before that. So it was like, okay. I think I have to be a little bit more discreet about what I'm going to say next. It was the audition.
Did you audition?
I did audition. It was after Scrubs, which I was offended by. Right?
That's what I was going to ask, because sometimes you come off winning.
I already went in there with attitude. I was like, okay, all right. It was like number 4 on the call sheet again, whatever. But it was a fun role. I enjoyed it because I was a mom, and it's like I get some time off with my kid, et cetera, et cetera. Then I go in, and there's like already 15 women there, and we're waiting an hour and a half. And it's like a test, and it's for, Mark Cherry and all that shit. And I was so pissed by the time I went in there.
Yeah. How did that audition go? Did you resist what you were feeling? Or did you use it?
I mean, I was such an asshole. Fucking Mark Cherry laughed his ass off. But it was an audition. It wasn't. And then they asked me to come back and test. I was like, what? I was like, are you kidding me? And then I'd be grateful. Women don't get this. La, 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 la. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. And the money they were offering was less than half of what I was making. Right.
Because now you have a quote.
So I said, no, I had a quote, and they were like, it's going to be this or nothing. And they want you to come back. So first I had to be convinced to audition. Then the money it was for. Then for a callback or come back for a callback, for fuck's sake. And I said, no. They loved you. So they want you to test. I was like, no, I'm not, or whatever it was. And for that money. It's like, what if they just give it to you? They want to offer it to you. I was like,
different story.
And it's like, and they said it was favored nation. So it was like 10 of 12 for everybody. This is where management and representation fucks you over. And 10 of 12 favorite nations. And it wasn't. I was the only one who had 10 of 12. And not everybody was making the same money. Everybody else they were all shows produced, and not me. So I lost my shit. And that was the beginning of the end of my relationship with my manager at that time.
And then were you able to rectify it later? Your contract later?
I threatened.
Well, also for them to say,
I threatened not to go to work. I said, you don't fix it, I'm not going to work.
That's my question to get in the business side of it. Was favored nations somewhere in writing that you were able to turn around and say, look, it says here favored nations, and we know that it's not?
It was favored nations on I can't remember that.
Because it's so good to get
Because
this stuff in writing.
it was in writing, but the understanding that I was given was that it was for all of us.
Yes.
But it was for me. You know what I mean? So I was like, what, huh? And I'm not good with that. And that's where I got better because my husband was amazing with that. And the entire process to get there, I would, go over it with him.
Well, and I really love that. I'm going to say women versus men. Men have no problem talking about their contracts. They have no shame around it. They communicate with each other all the time about it. Women, I'm loving in the last 5-6 years that we're starting to be more open about it. But the more open we can be, we can all rise together. And
it's true. It's true. And that's how we're finding out how we get screwed over. How are you going to find out if you don't? And I was having this fantastic conversation with Roz on the plane on the way back east or way over here from Atlanta, because then the show didn't get picked up. It got picked up by Lifetime and we had to move to Atlanta. So that created a whole other, situation. But it was Eva Longoria, and we were huge fans of hers. And it just kind of led to everything that she's become now. And I don't think she had that much to do with that, but she was terrific, And on my way back, on my back is when I found out that having that talk with a peer after a glass of champagne in first class. So I was, so what are you? So tell me, and I mean, we had those and we get to this place and I'm like, what? Okay.
Things can be different.
So it's not 10 of 12. You're not 10 of 12. She goes, no, Mama, I'm all shows produced. I was like, oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The little things that help us be able to understand our living, make better business decisions. And like you said, little things like this along the way, pivot. So then I have to jump while I still have you to then claws, because we kind of have a similar situation, ensemble cast, all female. I loved this show so much. And all of your characters, just even because you get to originate all of them, right? When it's a pilot, it's you discovering it. It's you bringing what you want to it. We got a totally different character again, who's still tough. I love the toughness that always exudes out of you, but I would love to hear about this situation or how Claws comes to be, because Divas made you in 2016. So Claws is like right on the heels of this, right?
Right on the heels of that. And that's with my new manager, who is now Andrew Tettenbaum. And he really encourages me. It's like, this show's going to be great. It's Niecy Nash. And just look at this character. Look at this character. I'm like, she doesn't say anything. And I was like, yeah, what the?
I had to know how this was pitched to you.
No, and he did. He goes, she doesn't say much, but and you have to know that going in. So this is a character that you have to build. They're going to give you a monologue for the test and for the audition, but you have to know that you read. You give me the script. The script is awesome. It's awesome, and I immediately think of who I base them on. And I know that I go in there with like a t-shirt and a ponytail.
I really wanted to hear walked through this audition, because I was like, what did they have her audition with? Or what?
They wrote, so I couldn't remember the monologue to save my life, but I was very grateful or excited to perform without words, and a lesbian with no hair, no makeup, t-shirt.
Hair.
I gained 10 pounds during that show. It was the best time of my life, but it took some work though. I had to go in there a bunch of times.
I was wondering, so once you did the monologue once, do they give you notes? Like, what are they thinking? This is such a collaborative process.
It was, and I did get some notes and some adjustments, and I think it was about 4 times. Then they passed.
Wait, they said no?
No, they passed in the beginning, and then they came back. They were like, they don't think it's going to work. They're going to keep looking, and then they came back and I got it. But the magic happened when we had the table read. We're all getting there. We meet each other. Everybody's amazing and outstanding. And we lit the room on fire. Our chemistry was out of control. And we became friends like this. We're like this constantly. And then we shot in New Orleans. All we did was spend time together. It was so special. Those people are still among my closest friends. And that's what it takes. And of course, our creator is an incredible funny writer, and the impeccable Niecy Nash, and Jen Lyon and Carrie Preston, who's got her own, and another incredible. You have to have her on your show.
Jen's a friend of the show. She's done the show twice. Ooh. Jen has. Her episodes are unbelievable.
She's the funniest person that ever lived.
So funny,
and the sweetest, and the most thoughtful, and the smartest.
Smart. I was going to say, and is really helping people. Really,
Yes.
really helping people through her
Carrie
experience.
Preston is another one, just kind of realizing every character actor's dream of being on that show, creating her show. I've been watching her since the Good Wife, where she would come in as Elsbeth. Oh my God, and just completely, it was like, oh, she's back.
Here she is. So for Claus, with it being this, were you going to the writer's room now? Were you giving your 2 cents on
They
Quiet
were
Anne?
around a lot. They were around a lot. So we'd talk. One of the things that did happen at the table read, and I'm indebted to Missy Nash for that. In the table read, there was a couple of speeches that they gave Quiet Anne, and as great as I did, and as excited as everybody was, I talked with Nisi afterwards, and she goes, "What do you think?" I was like, "What do you think?" She goes, "I think she's talking too much." I was like, "I agree." She goes, "I got you." And she went and she took care of it. And it made nothing but sense for her.
But how beautiful too that at the beginning of your career, kind of figuring it all out, wanting more responsibility, wanting more for your character, fighting for your character, fighting for exactly who your character is, even
Yeah.
to then have all of this beautiful experience,
Yeah.
start to feel so empowered in who you are
Yeah.
completely as an artist, to then be given a character and defend them honorably and don't need to say anything to be able to have a full experience.
Right. I mean, and to have the support of a colleague,
Yeah.
who recognizes their impact and their power in that show because they're the number one. Do you know what I'm saying? And to
I
check
do.
in with you and to be able to tell the difference, right, between ego and craft, right? Because a lot of the time, that's also what this business does. It just creates a cycle of where now it is about the picture, now it is about the words, and now it is about when you stand there. Now it is about, and that has to matter, but the experience is the only thing for me that's taught me the difference, right? Or what to take the difference most of the time. You still fuck it up.
We're still human beings trying to have a human experience,
Of
and
course.
you bring in the business and the money aspects and the advertising and all of this, and it just becomes so much more convoluted once you're in the television lane, right? Film is a whole
Yes.
different story. Theater is a completely different story.
Completely. And it's a more intimate venue, even still.
Yes.
That's the school.
People are coming for the experience. You're there to give the
Yeah.
experience too, not trying to be on billboards at this moment, or, it's
Yeah.
just a different lane. Okay, I have to ask about high potential because also somebody who has been fighting and like laying bricks, like I said earlier, to not only get to be in this part of being able to be an actor for as long as you have, to finally earning your business acumen and being, no, I'm not going back in there. No, yes, I am an offer. Yes, here is my body of work. Sure, here's a catalog. Welcome to my library of Judy. You can, I've played every character. Which book would you like to read from? To now, did high potential, what's the process for you coming to the, and high potential has had its moment with COVID and the strike, I think derailing it. I'm curious
Well,
about.
we're going to start shooting now, and it was like over a year ago. But yeah, that was one of those offer and now negotiate.
Yes.
And yes, and because I had to negotiate between that and another show that I had to work.
1266.
Yes, I did. No, that was also an offer. I did that in between. I did that in between like a film and something, and that was a recurring. But before that, there was. I am embarrassed. I don't know the name of the show.
I got you because I'm right here. I'm on it. For a show.
It was an Ava DuVernay show, a really lovely show. Where, but that was the choice that I had to make
between Dr. Death, Horror of Dolores Roach, and Florida.
Oh, Horror Dolores Roach. Oh my God, she's my kid's godmother, Justina Machado. I know her from the first time I saw her on stage. She was 19, and I fell in love with her. But that was also another character, and in that giant chunk of time. But ultimately, all that to say that's that moment, where you get the offer and then you counter and you're treated like you're desired, you're wanted, you're being, you know what I mean? And that they really believe that you're going to bring something to the show.
Well, that's the thing, right? Well, that was going to be my last question. And you can use this on 1266, high potential. You can use it on birth and rebirth. Was birth and rebirth an offer?
Yes. Laura Moss reached out to Andrew and gave him the script and said, I wrote this with Judy Reyes in mind. And you make sure that she sees it. And I read it. And I was like, I read it again. Yeah. So that's kind of like, the journey that's been happening over the last couple of years.
Well, that's what's so great. And this will be my last question. And you can choose any of these titles. Once you get to this point in your career and you're getting offers, the audition is just on a different day. It's on day one, usually.
Yes. That's great. I never heard that before.
So yeah, because I've watched a lot of, I've been on a lot of sets where the number one was an offer. And I was like, what's happening between the writer or the director and the number one right now? I'm like, oh, they didn't know. So now we have to have a moment, and however they decide to come together becomes that creative collaboration. So I'm so curious how you operate on your day one when you've been bought. They know they're getting Judy Reyes. They know, they're getting the talent.
It's still nerve-wracking.
Yes.
It's still nerve-wracking. I think you go in there with a certain amount of confidence, knowing that you know you can do this job, and then what can you do with it? And to establish communication. And I'm not the kind of person who's like, talks to the director or for like 20 minutes to try to break down what the scene is about. I do it first, right? And then I wait for the direction, or I ask for direction, or I need clarity. Or if we have a table read, I don't understand this, or I'll email them, does this mean blah, blah, blah. But I don't do that very often. I have to do it first. And the good thing about a pilot is that you have more time to kind of like develop that. But it is nerve-wracking sometimes. I still see some stuff, and I'm like, oh. God.
And you're like, and that's on day one. I'm doing that on day one.
All you want is another chance. All you wanted is another chance to do it. You know what I mean? And that's all. Inevitably, for me, it's like that less. Yeah. But most of the time, trust the gut feeling as opposed to like your vanity and all that. Sometimes I'm distracted by how I look. Sometimes, and that's such a woman thing, all that shit,
Yeah, I know I said that was the last question, but I have one more for birth and rebirth, because I usually ask actors what's the first few things they do to prepare an audition. What's the first few things other than reading the script relentlessly and getting your lines? How did you start working, or what did you start developing to get into birth and rebirth? Is that how you said her name? Right,
Celie. Mm-hmm. I started journaling. So I just kept writing and the script, the scenes, and then I would journal when I get my call sheet, I journal again as the character in those scenes and what I'm telling myself in the present, that's how it works for me. So it's both history and what I'm creating right now.
I love that because for birth and rebirth, you're a mother that's lost her child. Mm-hmm. So approaching that type of material and it being an offer, day one, you have so much of a history and an inner world.
And you also want to just kind of invent something that's different from everything that you've done too. And something that it's such an emotional movie, and there are places to go, so.
Yes. Thank you for letting me dig in. Thanks for getting into the business side of it, because somebody who's been doing this for so long, that is the thing that we have to kind of learn from project to project, and being able to hear how you've built a foundation underneath you and continue to work. And you're doing some of the best. I watched Smile randomly the other day before this was even set up because of a film I'm getting ready to do. And they said that they're using Smile as one of the references. I was like, I've never heard of this before. Oh, wow. You're everywhere. You literally are everywhere. You can do anything.
I'm like the Holy Spirit.
You can do anything and anywhere and any character. Yes. So this was just great to hear some
Thank you so much. And congratulations on your film. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's a dark one. It's really, really dark. Where can everybody follow along with you? And then all the things that are coming out. Does 1266, does that have Uh,
1266 was a pilot, but unfortunately, as of yet, it has not been picked up. So, but what a fun, it was such a fun premise. And that's one of the ones that the director was terrific. I came there with a certain idea and they basically directed me, and it opened it up for me so much. I was like, oh shit, okay. And all these great actresses, so fucking good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope that gets a possibility of a
I hope so too. I hope so too. That was a really rewarding experience.
Yeah. Okay. So High Potential and Wake Up with Dr. Phil. It's the same project, just a rename.
Wake Up with Dr. Phil?
That's what it has on IMDb, but it's the same exact premise as High Potential.
Oh, well, High Potential I know is based on the French series, High Potential Intellectual, which is Caitlin Olsen being like a genius who's too smart for the world. So she ends up, being the cleaning lady at a precinct, and she ends up solving a crime. And my character is the lieutenant, who's the chief, the one in charge, instinctually decides, let's hire her. Let's get her as a consultant. And her partner, who's played by the impeccable Daniel Sunjata, is like, no, are you crazy? And so that's the premise. They have to bring around this obscenely smart and interestingly dressed. It's like Elsbeth, but with a different character, with this like kind of fabulous mom of three who's walking around with her giant brain helping to solve crimes.
Oh, it's so fun.
Yeah, it's really fun.
It's so fun. Does it have release time yet?
I think April, because we're shooting our next episode next week. So I think it's April. We'll have a couple in the can by then.
Yeah, this is a good one. And
thank you so much.
Thank you. What are you on socials?
It is Judy Reyes, and the number 1 on Instagram. That's all I got, kids.
Lovely.